Hey, unless you've been hiding under a rock, you've heard of Bitcoin. And I'll tell you what, our guest today, brand new author, he's already hit bestseller in many lists. This book is blowing up. It has high regard from major endorsers, Richard Branson, you name it. So, GK, great to be with you today.
Great to be here, Kary.
Oh my gosh. Listen, I met you at Peter Diamandis's Abundance Conference, and I could tell right away you were a man with a purpose. You were a man with a story. We chatted briefly, you, Sarah, and I, and then the title just popped out, and then you win. First of all, talk about Gandhi and talk about that quote and how that kind of tracks Bitcoin.
Yeah, I've been in the space since 2012, and we've seen an evolution where initially, the technology was being sort of ignored, then it
Right.
was sort of laughed at, then it was fought, and we're entering the stage of winning. And in the industry, there's always these things, now they're fighting you, now they're ignoring you, now laughing. So kind of stayed in the back of the mind. And I think the title came in naturally from the standpoint of where the industry was and that we have kind of crossed the Rubicon. The Operation Choke Point 2 was being curtailed. The new president announced for US to become the crypto capital of the world, so kind of legitimizing the whole space with BlackRock coming in, Fidelity coming in, all the sovereign wealth funds buying in. And I think we were in stage where it just made a lot of sense to make this title and then you win and divide the book into four distinct sort of parts from, first they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, and then you win. So that's the short end of it.
It's so good. I'm right now live on Instagram too. We're catching some good crowd here. So this is the truth though, with Gandhi's quote, with anything that's hit a revolution, everybody laughs at you at first. Everybody ignores you. Everybody just is a naysayer, they're a hater. And that's easy to do when Bitcoin is 15 cents. But when it crossed 130K per Bitcoin earlier this year, is that
Correct.
I mean, that you can't really disregard that. And, I bought some just the other day when it dipped below 100 because you've been in 2012. What was the price of Bitcoin back then?
Well, when I first got introduced to an idea, the price was $20, and I had no clue.
$20.
20, I had no clue what this was, kind of magic internet money. But the person that introduced me, a very well-regarded tech entrepreneur, I thought, okay, he's allocating his time onto this, might be something interesting. So life is, Kary, is all about connecting the dots
Yes.
and taking the clues and doing your diligence. So as I stayed on, I think the big moment came a year later when the Cyprus banking crisis happened and
Mm,
where accounts were shut down. And that was a kind of a wake-up call, and Bitcoin went up to 250, 300. And my background is mathematics. I'm like, okay, this is very interesting, and financial markets. And I started digging deep. I started exploring the white paper,
yep.
going to Khan Academy, taking the courses, then connecting with some of my sort of classmates, tech investors. And when I kind of realized that people that were investing, they
Right.
were, multi-billionaire tech successful entrepreneurs, here they are betting on it on one hand, and on the other hand, you have kind of old school financial industry folks like Warren Buffett and Jamie Dimon that are kind of disregarding this. I thought, you know what? I think the guys that have made, billions and billions in tech know a
Mhm.
little bit more about technology than sort of a Warren Buffett. I mean, Warren is my hero, and in
Sure.
terms of his approach of investing, he's tops, but he has no cred talking about tech investing. That's not his sort of background. And I kind of bet with the geniuses of the tech world and kind of reading up Mark Andreessen's, what he was saying, Jack Dorsey, what he was saying, Zuckerberg, all these guys that were
Sure.
investing, and I connected the dots back then.
I love it. I love it. So, for those that aren't familiar with Bitcoin, it is a little bit mysterious. There is this white paper that you mentioned. Nobody really knows Satoshi, a pseudonym, but you know, you were making big bets, and that's what this book is about. And then you win. So give us, I know you're not going to be able to tell us the full story because that's the page turning book. Super exciting. It's riveting. I think it's going to be a movie someday. You do too. But talk to us about like you're overseas, you're trying to make something happen. Give us a little bit of the story.
Yeah, so when I realized this can be something huge, I mean the whole concept of Bitcoin is having an ability to transact outside of existing system. It works 24/7 and is based on mathematics and cryptography. And this white paper was not just a white paper; it was shared at the cyberpunk group. There's 200 top coders and programmers. I mean, these are the geniuses of computer science. They have their own kind of little clique. The guys like Hal Finney or Maxwell. I mean, these
Sure.
are kind of the science of cryptography. And when the paper was produced, they discussed among themselves and realized this can be massive. So they
Mm,
took together collectively and they launched the code they released the code into the open. These geniuses of cryptography and computer science. And it's not like Satoshi, he, she, or a group came up with this idea overnight. The white paper builds on 40 years of the most advanced cryptographic enhancements. And one of the guys that is quoted in a book is a fellow by the name Adam Back. He's a pioneer cryptographer who is
mm,
one of the endorsers of the book. He was the guy that put together an idea of solving something called Byzantine generals problem, which in
w-
cryptography no one could solve. And Bitcoin, through its decentralized architecture and the nodes, was able to send it. And going back to Milton Friedman, who said, at some point there will be a time where A will send digital money to B and B will send to digital money to A without any interference or any duplication or any sort of a fakeness of the transaction.
mm,
And that in itself is so monumental that this global ledger that's being created, that it's not stored in one location, but at thousands of locations around the world, and it gets updated automatically. So this concept is just so profound. And when I realized that, I said, okay, this is gonna be massive. So I dropped everything I was doing back then, agriculture investing in Ukraine, which is a very lucrative business. And I went all in supporting this sort of a crew of early Bitcoin miners company called Bitfury, which was foundational layer.
mm,
Without mining, without this computer verification, the whole network doesn't work. So
sure.
Bitfury was the dominant player, and it had comprised of these brilliant minds from Ukraine and Latvia and Finland. And my goal was to package this story and take it to Western capital markets and to take it to the Western sort of corporate governance standards. And once we started the road, I realized that there is a massive amount of distrust towards the system. And how do we build it? Well, you have to go and basically create the industry. You have to go and enlist the regulators. You have to go and enlist the legislators and explain to them. So early days, while we were building out Bitfury, we were also spending lots and lots of time and energy in Washington, D.C., in Brussels, educating the regulators, the legislators about the power of this technology. And then we sort of moved out while building the industry, building the company. Obviously ups and downs. There were cases where we were riding high, and then when the Bitcoin price corrected, we would be at the urge of collapse, and we had to put in all money. So 3 times we came very close to complete wipeout, and 3 times we had to go all in and mortgage our houses and everything and put all the capital in order to survive. And this book and this story is actually not really as much about Bitcoin, but about having the right people around you, having the right sort of a goals in life, and overcoming the adversities, and getting, falling down on your face, but getting up, falling down on your face, getting up, and keep pushing and pushing and pushing. And it's a story of what we learn about ourselves, because you learn a lot about yourself
Oh
in
yeah.
this situation, and the tolerance for pain when everything inside of you says you gotta give up, and how much and how hard you want it and how much you have this fire inside of you to keep pushing. And it teaches you a lot about the world as well, and
That's
it's
right.
just it's a journey, it's a story, and I thought it was time to tell it to the world.
I love this story. That's what makes a great movie is the person who's watching. These are my favorite movies where you learn something. Okay, so I'm a big learner. So as people read this book, they're going to learn about Bitcoin because you're already dropping these amazing things about, decentralization and how it's really giving power back to the people. It's anti-establishment in terms of bureaucracy. Why do we wait 3 days to transfer a wire money? Like
Correct.
all the stuff. I mean, when I started to get into it in 2021, long after you, my mind was blown. But the other thing that makes a good movie, which you're touching on, is this resolve, this never say die. And I think that anybody who reads this book is going to say, whether they're fighting an illness, whether they have
Correct.
a big challenge in front of them, you're giving people this grit and hustle. And let's talk about that because I got to show some of these pictures. The book is fantastic. When we look at some of these pictures here, first of all, right out of the gate, man, number one, number one, number one in many categories. It's mind blowing. But talk about some of these people. We might not know them as household names. A lot of us know Richard Branson, but who are these people, first of all?
I mean, first, when I started kind of thinking who were the key people that affected in a positive way the story, they're just like hundreds of them, frankly
Wow.
speaking. And what I also found out is that there has never been an insider story of
Mm,
someone as an insider telling the story of building a company.
yeah.
And we had dozens of key companies built out an ecosystem, and it's always been the reporters or the journalists reporting out. But with all
Mm,
due respect to them, they never really gave through the sleepless nights, through kind of going all
sure.
in, through having all these jitters. And one of the mission now, I'm sort of traveling and meeting up with all the old guard of Bitcoin guys. We gotta have more stories. You gotta write your story. You gotta write your story to show that there's no overnight successes. Yeah, I was at our AI data center company slash Bitcoin miner Cypher. We just hit a $10 billion valuation yesterday. There's no overnight successes. You gotta grind, and you're akin to a swan that goes on a lake and everybody looks at, oh, how beautiful this swan glides. But that swan sort of hustles a lot with the legs underneath to stay sort of afloat. And we need those stories. So when it came down, I mean, first of all, the forward is done by our dear friend Bill Tai, one of
Mm,
the most humble venture capitalists who was, marquee in funding the Silicon movement in terms of the semiconductors. Fresh out of Harvard, he went to Taiwan. And he was employee number one in Taiwan Semiconductor. This is the entity that controls 90% of all the supply of chips right now globally. And Bill stayed on with LSA Logic, with Jason Huang of NVIDIA, and he knows all these people. And he was the instrumental guy in terms of guiding us and helping, and was very privileged for him to write the foreword
mm.
of this book and tell his side why he thought this kind of the renegade crew of Ukrainian, Latvian, Finnish guys with no MIT, Stanford sort of backgrounds, why he thought they were so genius with the chip design and the hustle that he bet his reputation and resources in terms of making that happen. You got to realize when we were early on going in, we met probably 300 venture capitalists in Silicon Valley. We were laughed at, we were disregarded, and not a single one wrote us a check. Not a single one. The
Wow.
story of Bitfury was going in with guys like Bill Tai and a group of angels that bootstrapped our operation, but then using the Bitcoins that we mined, close to 600,000 Bitcoins that we recycled back into operations. So we spent $600,000, 600,000 Bitcoins at today valuations, it's $60 billion plus, to keep the machine going. And if we
Jeez.
had, it's just massive. People don't think it's a massive amount of capital, and we knew this was forthcoming. And it was guys like Bill that gave us this energy and gave us motivation to persevere through all the storms. And so we're very grateful. He had an idea of put together a gathering on Necker Island with Sir Richard and gather all the minds, regulators, law enforcement, entrepreneurs, businessmen to talk about the Bitcoin and blockchain, where it's headed. And we started something called blockchain summits on Necker Island. It was an annual event where we would bring in lots of decision makers and have a discussion. And many of the participants have gone on to run multiple billion-dollar companies from then on, and played a major foundation in us. Obviously, one of the guys there is Wences Casares. He's called Silicon Valley's patient zero of Bitcoin. He was very early investor, and he's the guy from 2011 that basically brought in the concept to Silicon Valley, or to the investors, and many sort of a fund managers started investing from him. Wences played a massive role in the foundation
Mm,
of Bitcoin blockchain. Obviously, Adam Back, this pioneer cryptographer, Matt Rozak, one of our early investors, and sort of believers that ran few organizations, and he's been very successful investor in the space, invested over dozen or so companies.
mm.
Don Wilson, legendary trader, who controls the firm called DRW, and they have about 20% of US Treasury market operations on any given day.
Wow.
And he's a visionary that got into the Bitcoin early on through this trading platform called Cumberland Mining. By the way, that's reference to the Grateful Dead song. So,
Yeah.
there's all these individuals,
Yeah.
CZ, or the founder of Binance, that has become world's biggest crypto exchange, and
Right.
he's a founder of Giggle Academy. So, a lot of these people that we moved in this journey, and we sort of experienced the ups and downs, and were there from the early on,
Mm.
and we've been privileged to have their support and be part of overall story together.
This is fantastic. I know you have the ebook out, you have the hardcover, you have the soft cover. We're days away from the audiobook. That's how I'm going to consume it. I am so thrilled for this book. What do you hope happens? Let's say, in our last few minutes here, let's say we have a chat actually at Peter's Abundance in March, and you say, "Hey, Kary, I'm so amazed at what happened. What happens from the book?"
I'm already amazed, and frankly speaking, I sort of expected this reception, but I mean, it's beyond belief. I mean, I am sort of telling this story as an founder, as an entrepreneur,
Mhm.
building a tech company in a very, very volatile business. So,
Wow.
all the lessons that have been kind of harnessed by us, I want these lessons to be brought to entrepreneurs, and already being approached by TEDx to have a conversation. I'm going to be
Oh.
going on for the big conferences where we're going to have fireside chats and bring out more of these stories, because Bitcoin stories and entrepreneurs in the Bitcoin space, those stories need to be aired out. And actually, I may have half a dozen new customers for you, Kary, because I will be motivating a few people to get out, because they have all fascinating stories. I mean, the Binance story, CZ story is fascinating. I mean,
Wow.
just on so many fronts, and on so many sort of in so many angles.
Mm.
And there are numerous other folks that have fascinating stories. So what I think we already accomplished, but I think as part of it, it's a journey,
Yeah.
and continuing telling that story, and whether that's going to come through TEDx or conferences, or doing a Netflix docu-series, which we're already in discussions.
Gee.
I think all of this is happening, and I'm glad to that I made the decision. Peter was an inspiration when I was at Abundance, and frankly, it was a period of time where we kind of were grinding and building, and we came to a situation where we spun out the companies. Two of them are listed on NASDAQ, three other have capable CEOs developing. And I had this little
Mm.
pause a little bit to kind of take my head up and see, there's other interesting things happening as well. There is AI, there is longevity. And you know what? Few of my friends have told me about Peter, and we intersected through some of folks attending Singularity, and like, why not go there? And when I was there, I got so inspired, and then one thing led to another, and we connected, and there we decided that we'd have a book in 6 months, and we did.
Well, I'll tell you what, I've never met a client of mine who has so much drive, hustle, passion. Listen, I got Instant IP, my company. That's kind of my startup with blockchain. And I mirror your passion. I really do. And I believe in it. And so your book is inspiring me already. But GK, I'm super proud of you. This is just the beginning, as we mentioned. I'm going to send this recording to my entire list. I'm going to encourage them to get a copy over the weekend. And we're going to dethrone the top book of all Bitcoin here in just a few days. Okay.
Fantastic. Kary, thanks a lot. Thank you for all the hard work and your team. I know at times I've been a little bit more pushy, but frankly speaking, I've mellowed down a lot. So thank you. Thank you for your patience. And
No,
you
listen,
guys
man,
done
you're good.
outstanding job. And, I've been privileged to ride this journey with you guys.
All right, GK.
Okay.
Folks,
Thanks a
get that
lot.
book today. Get that book. It'll
Thank you.
change your life, and then you win. All right, we'll see you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.